and innovation. EIN TV, educative, innovative, and nature-centric.
Hello, viewers. Welcome to another edition of Environmental Resort on EIN TV. My name is Ediong Senyene Ndunobong. Yes, I would like to start on a very, sober note by apologizing because we are supposed to be having this conversation yesterday, but due to unforeseen circumstances, we could not have the conversation. But here we are today. We will be, bringing in a guest all the way from Niger State. I told you that this is going to be a series that will take us around the 36th state of Nigeria, where we get to have a look at the subnational climate change policies of different subnational governments. And like I do say, we know that what subnational government means in Nigeria means state government. In some countries, that are called counties, and then some that are, I think we have and all of that. However, it's been called a country, but in Nigeria, subnational government is state. And then also we want to look at how they are implementing climate change related policies in different states, or their concerns, the things that are happening there. And so far we've done this tour in Abia State, and then we've been to Kogi State. Now we are in Niger State. Then we look forward to having a conversation across as many states as possible before the 28th Conference of Party of the United Nations. And of course, we yesterday that was in Akwa beginning, tomorrow. And of course, the oldest federal university in Akwa Ibom State had started their combined convocation ceremonies. And yesterday, I had some friends that did their convocation. I would like to say a very big shout out to them, especially my dear wife, Baseke. I'm proud of you. Thank you, for making me proud. And of course, I wish you the very best as you move into the next phase of life. And to everyone out there that did their convocation yesterday, and to my godmother who is doing us today for our master's degree, you are such an inspiration. Congratulations, Mrs. Mary Ann Onofio Andy, and to my friend and brother that is convoking tomorrow. You will be conferred the prestigious doctorate degree tomorrow, Dr. Cosmos Udo. I congratulate you. Thank you for showing us how to build resilience. And then to everyone out there, please, education is not scam. Like we put in Nigerian parlance, education no be scam. Of course, you have to, get educated to get the right information, the right knowledge. But again, it's not enough to go to school. What do you do with the information you get out of school? And that applies to what we do, how we behave, especially you go find a person supposedly, drink water from bottle from sachet and throw them into the gutter, whereas there are designated dump point where he or she could take those trash to, or perhaps even take them home and trash them properly. And there are so many things that you will find, supposed educated persons do, and you'll be disappointed. But then we just have to see how to live with these people and see how we can do our very best to, change their narrative and make them behave as they should. Okay, so back to the show. I would like to introduce my guest at this point. He's been waiting patiently, and he told me behind the scene that we must have this conversation because of how passionate he is to the issues concerning environment. And whenever I meet him, I have the opportunity of meeting him. I always ask him, what relationship do you do English? Because I know he studied English related stuff in the university, has to do with the environment, and he will just laugh over then give me some very fantastic response. And one of such is that we are all living in the environment, and if we do not show concern over our environment, we may have nowhere to call home. So, ladies and gentlemen, the executive director of Youth Voyage Nigeria is our guest. Be sharing his thoughts with regards to the climate change policy of Niger State, where he operates from. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Richard Abubakar Umar, the executive director of Youth Voyage. Welcome to Environmental Research, Richard. Hello, Richard. I noticed your internet access is actually very poor, but we'll see how we can have this conversation. So, like I had said while introducing the show, we've been to Abia State, we've been to Kogi State. I think something happened while we were in Kogi. We had some network challenges, and we could not conclude the conversation as we should. So, and it was, by the way, a very fantastic conversation because Dr. Tene had done justice to many of the questions I had posed that I had thrown at him. And though he was enthusiastic about talking more about the climate policy change drives in a change policy drive in Kogi State. But I know if you get back to watch the conversation, the video, you would, appreciate the fantastic job we did on that show. And then also to all of you that has always been a part of this conversation, thank you so very much. And thank you to our sponsors, our partners, talking about Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development. Thank you, Climate and Sustainable. Thank you, Pan African Climate Justice Alliance. And thank you. Yeah, and then let me bring you up to speed with what is happening before I see how to bring Richard again. I'm doing my best to see that it comes online. Currently, there's a stakeholder engagement in Lagos State organized by Climate and Sustainable Development Network, where the trend on basic issues or related to climate change. And I saw some very fantastic faces over there. I saw the National Network Coordinator of Climate Sustainable Development Network, Mr. Abu Steve. I saw Olumide Idowu, Mr. Climate. I saw Kola Disaster, Kola. I saw Enviro News, the CEO of Enviro News. And I saw some very great faces over there, and I wish them a very successful deliberation. So all of this I'm doing to see that Mr. Richard is able to, come online to share whatever it is and that is happening in the climate space in Niger State. I remember a conversation with a friend from Benin, Benin Republic. He shared a story of how he traveled. I think they were in Egypt also, and then he forgot one of his luggage on transit, and something funny happened. He requested that the luggage be sent to Benin. Benin. Excuse me, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. I think it's better now.
Yeah, thank you very much. So sorry, network has been so crazy.
We understand, and we hope that it will get better as we have this conversation. So, Richard, without further ado, welcome to Environmental Research. I had done a lengthy introduction of your person, and of course, I've shared how passionate you are, being someone that had a background or that has a background in English, but coming to dedicate full time to activities related to the environment, and of course, to contribute your quota in fighting the global challenge of climate change. Thank you so very much for all you do for the environment.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Okay, so Richard, thank you. You already know the crux of this conversation. It's about you are bringing to fore the climate change policy drive of your state, Niger State, and of course the things that are bordering, with regards to climate change in your state. Let me ask, what has been the situation over there now?
Yeah. Well, so Niger State has been doing its best in terms of addressing the issues of climate change. As a state, right from time, we've been able to position the activities of people, activities of native dwellers, and sensitizing them on the importance of forestation, conservation, and their day-to-day activities around the environment as regards climate change. So far, so good. Community-based organization that has been working in Niger State. I was part of the technical team in 2010 that when Lagos State hosted the second climate summit. In fact, the state co-hosted the Lagos Climate Summit, and I was part of the team that was sent to Lagos on behalf of the state. So until date, the state have been progressing in terms of environmental laws, in terms of protecting its environment, because as you know, Niger State is the largest state in Nigeria with 76,363 square meters of land, which is quite a very huge space. And we are expected to have the largest conservation as well. But unfortunately, we are the largest producer of charcoal and firewood in the country. And statistics have it that Nigeria is the largest producer of firewood in the world. So we are a major contributor to this menace, and we as a people are trying hard to ensure that we get the people sensitized to know that there are alternatives to tree felling and charcoal production. In fact, the state has gone as far as enacting environmental laws. To the best of my knowledge, there are environmental laws in Niger State. Niger State went as far as launching the green guards to protect its forest reserve. So when you're talking about policy with focus with Niger State, we have the green guards in place. Just recently, the current governor approved the recruitment of 2,200 green guards to protect the forest, also to address the security challenge the state is facing, because it's because of the huge landmass and the forest reserves that gives room for banditry activities in the state. So, excuse me, in terms of policy and government participation, the state has been doing its best in order to ensure that it puts infrastructure in place, it puts human resource in place, and it works the policy document in place for environment. As you know, recently we had the first subnational Niger State Green Summit. Is the first subnational where the state brought in experts to address the issue of climate change and to project its own climate challenge as it is, So the state, from what I know currently, the governor is championing the cause of climate change as I speak to you, because he's the one spearheading it. And in fact, I'll bring to your notice, I don't know if they've announced it, but best of my knowledge, he is the one heading and leading the delegation of Niger State to COP28 in Dubai. This I got to know from the Commissioner for Environment of my state. So for this alone shows you that Niger State has a strong political will from the part of the governor. As a civil society, I'm not speaking for government, but based on facts on ground, Niger State has a total of, in terms of renewable energy, they have a total of over 7,000 standalone solar street lights. They have 34 communities of national grid on solar energy, and they just signed a contract. I don't know, they're meeting with some investors in the States. I know of the one that happened just a day before yesterday with the Ministry for Power and Renewable Energy. They are trying to bring in new companies to set up off-grids in the States. So it's interesting to know that, despite the fact that I'm an MP of Niger State and a private activist, Niger State has the largest solar investment in Nigeria. It's like Niger. So let's keep advocacy that talks about
Okay.
but Niger State is doing so much in terms of
Okay.
the just transition and the policy implementation of its own.
Okay, fantastic, Richard. You had blown open the conversation, because there were things I needed to tackle you with, but I think you've done justice already. If we end this conversation here, you would have done justice to your state, and of course, it was more like you were pitching, marketing Niger State to the masses out there, because of the many things you've said in glowing terms. But let's get to talk about something you've mentioned, talking about human resource mobilization. What has it been? Because I understand that if we get, especially the young people, involved in green jobs, there will be a serious, drop in unemployment rate. So, what has been the commitment of Niger State, to the best of your knowledge? I want you to speak now as a civil society person, and not someone who had known some person in the government. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of actually, as civil society, we're doing our best to carry out advocacy and policy engagement. Most of the times, there's this notion that civil society are critics of government, but at times, when you criticize, it doesn't work. You just have to find a way to design solution as well, propose solution and proper solution, and push up to government. Just last week, we're in a climate change workshop organized by Include, with support from the Netherlands government, where my organization was invited. But to the great surprise, when I arrived at the hall, I saw a deputy director from my state representing the state independently. I didn't know about his invitation. So that shows you that the ministry itself, it's working hard to ensure that they partner with development partners in terms of building capacity, especially on the issue of just transition. Currently, the state is working hard because we as civil society understand the problems, especially when it comes to policy. Most of this policy stops at the national, then some information are passed down to the subnational, but it doesn't get to the local government level, where these problems really emanate from, where we have more vulnerable victims of climate change, where even the quick response doesn't get to them on time because of the distance or the nature of where they are, based on hard to reach, because they had to reach communities. So as civil society, we try to project these local voices, as you're doing here, advocating, projecting local voices. As I speak to you, there's a documentary we are working on. We showed the trailer at the just concluded Green Summit when I happened to be a panelist, where we went to a community that experienced early flooding as a result of the water released from dams. We were there, we took canoe. It took us over 2 hours to get to the community, and it took us 2 hours back to the shores. In fact, we got caught up by nightfall on the water. We're on the water till about to 8 p.m. coming back to the shore. So what I'm trying to make you understand is that there are issues, and these communities, they don't have local government presence in terms of human resources. So the human resource don't even have a climate change desk at the local government level, and the data, they don't even know how to even transmit this data. We have only a state emergency agency that is responsible for disaster risk management or disasters in the state. So these are, and they have officers in the local government, but they don't have the knowledge of transmitting climate-related data. So to even subnational government, where subnational government need to act. So we need to have more capacity building, which is a fact, because the local government makes the subnational function. So if you don't make them function in terms of implementing capacity building, being deliberate about activating the workforce or creating climate change desks in all local governments, creating climate change desks in all the MDAs, creating climate change desks, even having a coalition within the civil society, bringing civil society together in order to, or community-based organizations together in order to work with them in terms of climate crisis. So you see, in terms of policy, there's a huge work to be done in domesticating this policy and talk more of implementing them. And again, advocacy as well, not only on policy, advocacy. Do the people really understand the meaning of climate change? Do the people know that these laws the states are bringing is as a result of the environment, or this harm they are doing to earn a living is as a result of, and the disaster that is coming up is as a result of their own activities? So we need to localize policy documents in native languages and carry out advocacy campaigns to these communities so that they can synchronize and support government. Because at times, I met a doctor in one workshop. He said, any plan that I'm not involved in is against me. You understand? So any plan that you don't carry the community along, you don't carry the local government along, at the end of the day, whatever, no matter how beautiful your policy document is, it will not work. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Richard Umar. I like your concluding statement on that. Whatever policy that does not include me is against me. So I think I go home with that. That's a take home for me. Okay, let me thank you sincerely for this particular opinion you're sharing, of course, with regards to stepping it down to the local level, because I understand that we did a research sometime this year, and then we realized that there are no environmental office desk in local government areas, and it happened that it across the country. In my further inquiry, and then what you're saying now is a confirmation to that research we did, and of course it will be some sort of yeah. So it's a call to action that we see how to get this.
Let me just chip this in. I'm part of our own effort as community branch. In terms of this local climate voices campaign we've engaged in, we're partnering with the Ministry for Local Government in Niger State. We are partnering with CSDevNet. We are partnering with PACJA in order to project these local voices, because we went down to the interior. We are allowing the people tell the stories in their local languages, their experiences of climate crisis, so that the world will understand that these are evidence-based. We went to the flood community, and you see all of them living inside the water as it flooded, because they don't want to relocate to the new settlements because of heritage issues and connection issues. So these are real cases that we saw. Very, very, very risky experience, because this is one of the riskiest journeys I've embarked in my life, as a climate activist. So what I want to let you know is that a lot of things need to be done. We have to be deliberate about it in terms of what they call them, us as civil society. We shouldn't sit down and tell the stories or pinpoint the problem. Take action, take the bull by the horn. Go and do your research, get your facts, go and table it with government, tell them this is our finding, this is how we are going to solve it, propose a solution. Then you help them, because at times they can hear me. Did you get my last point?
I didn't quite pick the last things you said, Richard.
Hello, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I didn't get the last part of your statement.
I said you have to be deliberate as civil society. Okay, like what we deliberate as civil society so that
Okay.
we can identify the problems. Let's do our research. Let's do our data mining. Let's get research. Let's see the government and see the proper solution to people. If not, when we keep just pointing for solutions, engage them, propose collaborations, so that the people that are the end see solutions at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that is a pointer to the fact that we should not just sit on the fence and, of course, criticize the government. We should also get involved, propose solutions to whatever it is we see in the society that's a problem. Thank you so very much, Richard, for that, fantastic position. I would like to thank you, and of course, thank CSDFNet, Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, and Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development for always making sure that we come on live on this show. Okay, so Richard, let me get to you, because in a couple of weeks from today, and of course, one of the reasons why we are having this series is that we'll be having the Conference of Party, and that's the 28th edition. And we understand that there has been speculations from different quarters. Oh, this year's COP is in Dubai, and there had been a ban on Nigerians accessing Dubai for quite some time. But prior to COP, there's been a lift on that ban. So there are speculations from different quarters that politicians will be seizing the opportunity to attend in the name of going for COP, but they're actually going to Dubai to have their good time. What is the delegation of your state like? Do you have a knowledge about it?
Yeah, you want to dive into politics. I am not a politician per se. So I'm an activist and an advocate. But based on the information, I'm privy to, yes, Nigeria is participating in COP, despite Dubai brand, and visas issued and approved to participants of the COP. These I know because I know colleagues of ours have gotten visas and they are participating fully at the COP28, which is a normal prerequisite for participating delegates, because the United Nations always gives waiver. Like the time we were in Glasgow in 2021, during COVID, just after the advent of COVID, there were serious restrictions, travel conditions by the UK government. But the UK government had to waive them for all COP participants at Glasgow, which we experienced those waivers when we got to COP. We were not isolated after a week on arrival and stuff like that. So it's a normal diplomatic process for every country to waive and bring down its protocols. Because even the UK visas, within 8 days, we were able to access our visas, which was not a normal process. At times, you have to wait for months before you get a UK visa. So for Dubai, it's not different. COP delegates go through proper scrutiny through the national focal point and through accredited civil society with the UN ECOSOC status, or the United Nations ECOSOC status. So before you get your visa, you must have gone through these rudiments and protocols of the UN. You must have attained them. So concerning the visa ban, I got to understand recently that this Nigerian government have even paid. I has read it in one of the dailies online. The Nigerian government have paid up all foreign outstanding debt between them and airlines, which I believe was one of the major issues between Dubai and the UAE and Nigeria. So actually, the Mr. President went to the UAE to discuss that, to get the waiver. I think the waiver, but bureaucracy, they could say, okay, we've agreed, we'll waive it. But paperwork and diplomatic processes could take longer time. So it's not like the way you hear it, this will happen. Like, for example, before, you remember, they said World Cup in Qatar. They're not going to Qatar, they don't sell alcohol. but in World Cup they drink alcohol. They have to bend cartel rules to make some drinking points. You can't drink only within that place and finish there. And you can't except at the drinking point. So you see, there are diplomatic processes. It's not that Nigeria issue and Dubai is a new one, but it is like that when you have a global event.
Okay, Richard. I just wanted to know the position of things, but then thank you for that.
Again, last one. Let me let you know, based on my privileged information, I learned that Mr. President was critical about Nigeria's delegation. He said he was not traveling he's not going to travel with a huge delegation. I'm not speaking for government. So even to get accreditation now from the focal point is a difficult task, because you have to officially write, they have to look at their slots, they have to look at what the guidelines they have. So these are informations I'm privy to, and it's not a political party, as so to say, but because I know that these are the processes.
That's excellent. Thank you so very much. I like the fact that Mr. President has, like you've said, had decided to, cut down on the huge number of delegation, and of course the people going with him to a conference of parties. And I am happy again that you're a state governor, because these are the issues you had mentioned in passing, that your state governor will be leading the delegation from your state, and that's a commitment. That's a commitment to some extent. And I want to believe that he will make the most out of, that trip, and of course to see that it brings the most of climate-related investment to Niger State.
I even want to let you know that one of the outcomes of the Green Summit, they just signed an MOU with the NNPC Limited in order to start some green. He has attracted some green projects to Niger State already, green investment project. They have signed MOU with NNPC Limited, which is going to give jobs to over 500 youths.
Okay, Richard. Can we do this? Can we do this, Richard? I just want you to take this time and talk about the green climate summit that you guys had, because you've been trying to talk about it in different in segmented form. I just want you to talk about it properly, and then see how to relate it to what we are having conversing here about.
The Green Climate Summit, it's brought climate experts from around the world, from UK, from even Europe, to come from even Africa here, and even from Niger State. And I know for sure, if you look at the program, you see myself and Dr. Priscilla Achakba was on the list of the program of panelists that the state identified. That is to tell you that they identified people, both national actors and local actors like us. So that summit was what they aimed, based on the note sent to me as a panelist, because I happened to be a panelist to discuss on how we could expand the resilience of our state and see how we can attract direct foreign investment. So that was the panel. We discussed in total the issues facing the states and the opportunities within the state as well. So as civil society, my role on that panel was simple. I was able to draw their attentions to the climate crisis we have in the states. I was able to even show them the trailer of our documentary. We are not done editing the documentary, but we're able to do a trailer and show them the true picture of these hard-to-reach communities, evidence-based. That formed the basis of my panel at the summit. We really got everybody work, because they were surprised to know that we have this major challenge before us, and the state is now like saying, okay, this is our problem. Let climate experts come. Where can you help us? Where can you invest? Where can you take advantage of? And the governor is committed to, because from one of his statements, he said he's willing to give lands for carbon sinks, for conservation, so that he can attract carbon credit to boost the IGR of the state. So you see, he is trying to cut carbon, and as well, just recently, from the subsidy funds that were sent to the state as palliative, he bought 200 CNG buses that will be using compressed gas, natural gas, to take students for mass transit in the state. So you can imagine the amount of carbon emission that will save by using CNG buses. So these, that's why I told you earlier that I don't want to talk too much, because actually there are realities on ground that we are seeing, and we cannot, as community, as an advocate, say you need to say what you don't see. When you have the balls to say what you don't see, then why would you say what you saw?
Okay, thank you, Richard.
These are the facts, and the summit, they are moving forward like after summit now. NNPC, MOU with NNPC, which was one of the outcomes of the summit. Now he's leading the delegation to COP with his technical team, led by himself, the Commissioner for Environment, and the Environment, the Green Summit team that were behind it. So that means they are hosting a side event as well at the COP, at the Nigerian Pavilion, and they are going to be participating in other side events. At our own level as community-based organization, PACJA has graciously given us a space at their pavilion to stream our documentary at the Pan-African Climate Justice Pavilion. And again, WEB has also assured us to stream our documentary at their site event again. So you see, we are all trying to project local issues at the table, and this with focus on Niger State as well. So we are doing our little best to tell our stories at the COP as well. Thank you very much.
Very much, Richard. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. And thank you for the many things you're doing in Niger State. Time has actually been our friend, but like people will say that time is never a friend. And then I want to believe that you've done justice to the conversation by the things you've shared with regards to climate change policy drive of Niger State, and they are quite fantastic. And I want to believe that all of these things, the one that are in the pipeline, will begin to manifest, so that people will get to not just people and nature will get to benefit from the very fantastic policies drive that they are undertaking in Niger State. Okay, so I just wanted to, because I understand that in every good there must be a bad. Even if we have 1,000 good, there must be at least one or two issues that needs to be taken care of. What are those interventions that you would love to take with regards to your state and of course their involvement in commitment to climate change related issues?
Yeah, the most important thing is for them to take action on flood communities. As I told you, we are projecting the stories of how communities suffer during flooding. And we had a case where a woman gave birth during flooding because of the tension. They gave birth, 3 women gave birth, and they couldn't even birth the children because the water was contaminated already. So, and they couldn't even get clean water. So the babies had to stay like that for a while until they got to shore. And they got help, and just imagine the circumstance. So it's quite a situation whereby the state needs to see how my own advice is that they should see how they can take advantage of the climate crisis as a potential to see how they can harvest even these flood waters, because there are new technologies on flood water management where you could harvest them and they can serve as raw water, as irrigation, for irrigation farming as well. Raw water for our potable drinking water, for our water works. So not only that the only thing is for us to see how we can transform, think outside the box and transform the current situation into a more lucrative situation for the native dwellers, so that the green economy we are talking about can be actually domesticated, localized, so that you can empower these communities with even alternative sources of income. Because if you don't put this alternative source, they will fight you because this is where they feed. And you know what it means when it's about survival. When somebody that's the only source of income, tree felling, charcoal production, to put food on the table, then you now come and say, I want to for you. If you drive in from this point, you will look for another location and go and start his business, because that's the trade that brings him good money. Because let me tell you, charcoal leave Niger State for export. No, they're not even doing it. It's not a local market thing, because the local villager doesn't need charcoal. If he's going to be manufacturing his own charcoal, he will emit more carbon. He will only need the firewood, not to do charcoal. But this one, they fell the whole tree because they know they buy it for export. So it's not even for our own local consumption or urban consumption. It's not even urban and semi-urban. It's now an international business. So if to cut down such business, we have to introduce alternatives like briquette making. The government has to be deliberate in terms of providing communities with briquette making machines so that they can start manufacturing and be selling this briquette in same quantity as charcoal by using organic waste. You see, they are going to be reducing waste. They are going to be reusing the waste in a more cleaner way, which again will solve up-end poverty and provide alternative source of income. So these are one of the major bags I need to tell you. And I didn't hide it from you.
All right, thank you, Richard. Thank you for the intervention. Now, going forward, I just wanted to do this before we wrap up this conversation. There's been a campaign by the Pan-African Network where you had mentioned long before now, and championed in Nigeria by CSDevNet.
Yeah.
Your campaign.
Yeah, there have been series of campaigns by. Can you hear me?
Talk about the Keep Your Promise. Yes, I can hear you. Just wanted to talk, and we did the launch in Abuja, Nigeria, and I would like to know if you had taken this to your state, and if they've adopted it, and to see that they moved to cope with this particular campaign too.
Yeah, you see, the Keep Your Promise campaign was launched immediately after the Green Summit. I think immediately after the Green Summit was launched, and we have been pushing at local levels to ensure that we get local government participation at the COP. And I will wish to tell you that as part of pushing government to identify with local government, you remember earlier I told you local government doesn't have capacity. But I want to tell you now, you've been pushing me to talk, so I want to tell you now, as a result of that, our documentary that we partnered with the Ministry for Local Government and the advocacy push we've been pushing, the state government has added in its delegation local government chairmen from these affected communities to participate at the COP in order to be part of the conversation, in order to tell their own stories themselves. And this is a huge one, and it was a push from us in Youth Voyage with the push from CSDevNet and PACJA through your Keep Your Promise campaign. So you can see we are doing our own advocacy push to see that we project this climate crisis. We push government to do the right thing by identifying those that really deserve to be issues. Because as a civil society, we have to come out open and let them know that, look, excuse me, when you go to talk climate change, it ends in the state capital in Minna. How does it get to the local government chairman in the most affected? Like you have local government chairman in 4 hydro dam states. We have 4 hydroelectric producing dams in Niger: Shiroro, Kainji, Jeba, and Zungeru. So we are in the most vulnerable community when it comes to climate crisis. And the governor just said that as part of the loss and damage issue, he's going to shut down the dams, let the water not get to the Niger. If the federal government doesn't pay the state 13% derivation for sacrificing their homelands and giving way for us to enjoy clean hydropower. So you see, the governor is now becoming a climate activist, not even a politician. So he just said this yesterday or day before yesterday. It's in the news everywhere that he will shut down and the water going to Niger Delta area. So it's not sounding like an activist, it's taking action. So
thank you.
He's achieving SDGs by his policy statements. So I think doing our best as activists, and we are seeing the results in this government.
Thank you, Richard. I like the fact.
So many years, it took so many years of hard work to bring the government to the table, because my doggedness made me build a demonstration forest in the College of Education in 2009, 10, 12. That even attracted me an appointment, an essay. So I had to leave the civil society space to be an essay to the governor on green program. So you see, if you keep pushing, you push government to work. And I'm now back, and we kept pushing. We got the environmental laws I'm telling you about. Our contribution was there as community-based organizations. We were the one that pushed the Ministry for Environment, and they pushed to make sure that they got green card. So you see, when I'm talking about the milestones, I'm not talking for government. I'm talking about our own role in making government achieve that. So it's not about talk. It's about walking the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I sincerely appreciate you. And of course, there's so many things you're doing in Niger State. And to be very frank with you, but not for time, I would have loved us to continue this conversation and talk, and of course, get to expose more of the many fantastic things you're doing in Niger State. Thank you so very much, Richard, for sparing your time to come on Environmental Resort today.
It's always a pleasure. And you can call on me anytime. And let's say most times the network doesn't mess us up, please. So
I appreciate it. Don't worry about the network. We are in Nigeria, and with our consistent advocacy and activism, somehow it will get better, and of course we'll get better services for our money. Thank you so very much once again, Richard, for being a part of the conversation today.
Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Ambassador Richard Abubakar Umar from Niger State, the of Voyage, Nigeria, who joined us to share his perspective with regards to the climate change policy drive of Niger State. Before we had a little break, I was trying to share a story where a friend forgot his log in the Republic. So he directly sent it to Benin City in Edo State, Nigeria. And I wanted to say this as an opener to this show, because some people may not know what the difference is between Niger State and Niger Republic. So Niger State is a state in Nigeria, and of course one of the subnational government, and they are doing fantastically well with regards to their advocacy, their engagement, their policy drive. And of course, you've heard our guests say that their governor currently is behaving like an activist. And for me, that if you do the judge or it doesn't work, you may have to take the other route to see that you get what you want, especially when it comes to favoring nature and of course your people. So ladies and gentlemen, that will be the size of our show today. I would like to say a very big thank you to Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development, to Climate and Sustainable Development Network and Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, right? And then of course to Youth Voyage Nigeria for making sure that we have this edition of the show. And thank you once again to Ambassador Richard Abubakar Umar for sparing his time to be on the show today. Thank you to you especially for always making sure that you share our videos, and of course for always making sure that you like our pages and you make sure that we come back to you through your various means of encouraging us. Thank you so very much. My name is Ediong Senyene Ndunobong, and it was nice being your host today on Environmental Resort. See you on the next edition. Bye-bye.
This is EIN TV, your one-stop TV space for conversation